guys, have you ever heard someone tell you, oh, there's science to back that up, to defend a statement? Well, have you ever questioned that? I mean, what is science exactly? Where does science come from? Well, not to worry, because today we're going to find out and we're going to become pseudoscience hunters. Dun, 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 dun. Pseudoscience hunter.
So if you look here, you can see some pretty old ads where doctors or dentists, men of good scientific reputation, recommend cigarettes. Now we all know cigarettes are bad for your health, but in these ads they're saying that the doctors say it's okay for you. Now we all know that that is bad science, pseudoscience, it's not real. But ads like these are still everywhere on television, online, in magazines. This one right here is for a doctor recommending a tanning bed, which is also not good for your health.
So, what exactly makes science real anyway? What's the difference between science and pseudoscience? Well, real science has some very specific qualities that we're going to talk about tonight. First of all, real science has gone through extensive testing and retesting. So that they've done many trials, hundreds, sometimes thousands of trials for the same experiment so that their results can be replicated later on. They know they haven't made a mistake. Those results are good to go. Now, science also has clear and replicable methods. So, if another scientist wants to try the same thing, they can go follow these methods and get the exact same results. Science also builds, spell builds right, on previous research. So, science doesn't just come out of the blue and say, hey, we're going to study this today. It tries to take what's already been done and make it better, or to elaborate on it, or to make it more detailed. So, science also have claims supported by evidence and not opinion. So it's not just going to be a doctor saying, well, I think these types of medications are the best. No, this is real life evidence, real results they've gotten from real tests. Alright, good science is also peer-reviewed. So other scientists in the same field who studied that, not because they've been paid to talk about it, but because they've actually majored in that, gotten doctors in that, can review the science that's been done and critique it, edit it, and make sure it is good science. Also, good science has objectivity. So, real science, it's very hard for this to come across for the humans. So we feel, we think, we have emotions, and our problem is it's very hard to be objective sometimes. We don't want to put our own opinions into the scientific research we're doing, and sometimes that's very hard to do. So scientists at least strive for objectivity. They don't always make it, but that's at least a quality that we try to put into real science. Also, real science comes from reputable source. And we'll talk about those in a minute.
So here we have some of the examples of reliable sources in science literature. So these are called peer-reviewed journals. Now, peer-reviewed journals are when scientists have done their research, they're ready to publish it, and they show it to other scientists in the same field as them to have their work critiqued and edited, and finally it is published in one of these large national publications. Now, Nature is one of these. Here are a few more covers of different nature journals, as you can see here. And Science is another example of some of these peer-reviewed journals. Now, you can also rely on government scientists for good, solid science. Now, there's a lot of different departments of the government that study different types of science, and the NOAA, or National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, is one of them, and this is just the homepage of their website. The EPA is another good resource, Environmental Protection Agency. The USGS, U.S. Geological Survey, is another good source. And finally, we have the National Science Foundation. Now, you can see all these websites have the .gov address, and so they're easy to see as government agencies.
Okay, so another good resource for good, reliable science is university professors. Now, sometimes university professors publish textbooks or come up with their own websites for their own departments, and this is all reliable, real science. Now, sometimes these same professors will have their own blogs where they post opinions about things. This is not a reliable source for science, but anything that comes from their university specifically or is connected with a peer-reviewed textbook such as this is going to be a great source for real science. Okay, so now we can look over here. These are some books with science in them, but they are not peer-reviewed journals, and they're not something that's going to give us real science resources. Now, they may be a good starting point, again, to look for other things, however, they're not going to be the best. Another science book. Now, this is a very good book. It's got a lot of great information in it, but you always want to go to the back of anything that claims to be science and check the footnotes or the sources, and I can't find them. Here they are. So the bibliography, she cited a lot of different sources she used, and you want to go and make sure you can find those sources and read them yourself for the real science. Magazines like National Geographic and Popular Science may have good articles in them, but these aren't the same articles that go in the peer-reviewed journals. Now, sometimes there'll be summaries of articles that do come from peer-reviewed journals, and those are a good starting point. But then you want to go to the original source, and the primary source also is called, and check it out for yourself. Okay, so another source to use that's probably the most unreliable, the unreliable of the unreliables, is Wikipedia. So, anybody can post on Wikipedia. You know, almost everyone uses it for a starting point, but you always want to go check the links at the bottom, check the footnotes, see where they got that information from. I could put something on Wikipedia that was totally false, and you would never know it because you just glance for the information at the top. So, when you're looking online, you know, maybe you can start there, but make sure you go and credit a real source later on. Now remember, the prefix for the word pseudoscience, pseudo, means false. It's not true, so say no to pseudoscience, be great science researchers, and check the real thing. See you later.